Okay, we're going to talk a little bit more about the therapies. I think that's one of the key topics that we're going to try to hit today. But first, I want you both to try to put into words for people who have not been directly affected by autism, meaning a family member or a close friend's child or relative has not been diagnosed. Can we explain what autism is?
Sure. I mean, I think it's becoming rarer for someone not to be affected by autism in some regards. I mean, the rates have increased so precipitously, from, you know, 1 in 10 to 15,000 to 1 in 100 children. And with the preponderance being boys over girls.
Boys over girls, yeah.
You know.
So what is it? What is it? As far as because I do want to talk a little bit more about some causes. There are a couple different things I want to try to point out as well. But how can we define autism? By the behavior? What are the things that,
sure,
that
well,
notate it?
Autism is a developmental delay that affects both cognitive function, language, socialization, and you know, one of the hallmarks is a lot of stereotypical behavior, unusual behavior. These children tend to stand out next to their peers. Sometimes at the early stages because they lack the traditional milestones. They don't meet those milestones of development that parents look for and pediatricians look for. But also because they have some unusual behaviors which make them stand out very obviously away from their peers.
And Ben, what can you add to that as far as?
I would say also that it's neurologically based, where it's always been, in, you know, like Dr. Levinson mentioned, in the older days it was always thought to be, as a matter of fact, at one time it was thought to be childhood schizophrenia before they had a name for it. And a lot of it was because of the behavioral component and the fact that these kids had a lot of repetitive behaviors, maybe spinning or flapping their hands and different things. And not all children with autism do that, just some of the more severe do some of those types of behaviors. And then they have a narrowed interest, a lot of them. They focus on one particular thing, and they may be very good at one thing. On some of the higher functioning kids where they may be geography is their interest, and they can memorize maps in their head, and so you have a whole range, and it's called a spectrum disorder for that. You have kids that are very severe all the way to very mild, and in some cases with Asperger's syndrome, which is on the spectrum. There's children that can go all the way into middle school without ever being diagnosed because they compensate for the things that they don't have the ability to do because they're intelligent, but then when it gets to middle school, they have a problem because of the social issues. They don't pick up on the social nuances, and then they're kind of the standout, and they're kind of off to their self, and that's where it becomes really more apparent.
And I think it's an interesting conversation as far as just as human beings. You see. You want to quantify by neurological disorder, behavioral disorder, social disorder, but this encompasses all different behaviors in a quite complicated way. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. What should strike many of you and many of us who have not yet been directly affected by autism is the incidence rate. Reportedly, the diagnosis rate, as Dr. Levinson mentioned, 1 in 100 or 100 to 150 children currently, and even more frequently so in boys. And what's more alarming is that the rate of diagnosis is increasing approximately 10 to 17% each year. The diagnosis impacts every single family in profound ways. Listen.
Well, it's a challenge. It's exhausting. It's stressful. I can't even put into words how stressful it is on a day-to-day basis. On top of just the diagnosis, the emotional strain, the financial strain, you also have to take the time to reconnect with your spouse every day. The percentages of families who have kids with a developmental disability, I believe that it's like 8 out of 10 marriages end in divorce. It's unbelievable odds that you are up against. But when your love is there and you have the support of your spouse, then it gives you the strength to get through it.
And that was Carol Nigro, whose 9-year-old son Matthew was diagnosed with autism at age 3, and in addition to helping Matthew on a day-to-day basis, she also is the resource specialist at the Nova Southeastern Card Center for Autism and Related Disabilities at the Dan Marino Center. As we spent time with Carol and Matthew, she had just a range of emotions, and you could see on her face the toll that the diagnosis takes on the mother of an autistic child. And so I just want to talk a little bit about these causes, and I just want to ask, throw it out there, what do we know currently about the causes, the things that are causing autism, the diagnosis, and the rate of increase of diagnosis?